Hey everyone. Today we're going to look at the last phase of the project management framework. So at this point in the phase, you should have a completed project. You're done with your with executing your plan, and now we're going to kind of wrap up the project, make sure that we have all our documents organized and archived, and actually do kind of a lessons learned. Look through what worked, what didn't work, both individually and as a team, right? So it's a really nice kind of exercise to do at the end of the project to really make sure that the next project goes smoother, or that we know what we want to continue doing, what we need to maybe tweak a little bit, right? Just for, continue improvement. So there's only a few slides in this particular lecture, so we really shouldn't be that long today. So the first slide is just kind of listing out what you would typically include in your archive. So you can see here that really any and all documents that you obtained throughout the process would be included in the archive, starting with your scope statement, your project plan, your WBS, and really looking at what your original plan looked like and versus what it maybe ended up looking like, right? So the actuals, kind of the reality. And so you would want to put both of those things kind of in your archive. So again, just so we have access to that in the future. Any action item logs that were created, status reports would be included in the archive. During this particular phase, you will complete this post-project review, so what's called the PPR report, and we'll get to that. So once that's completed, then it would that would be part of your archive as well. All right, and then any other documents that you think might be helpful in the future. If someone else was taking on a similar project, you might want to include, those documents, those notes that you think would be of interest to those groups to help them out. All right. The purpose of the review, the purpose of this phase is really a couple different things. One, to recognize the accomplishments of the team, what you guys accomplished. So it should be celebrated, it should be recognized. You can recognize team achievements, you can recognize individual achievements as well. And then also to make sure that you identify things that you would do differently, kind of this lessons learned. Not everything's going to go perfect. And so kind of recognizing those things, again, as this kind of continuous improvement type of activity. And then things that you would want to make sure that you do again. So there's going to be hopefully a lot of things that go right. And so you want to identify, as a team, hey, this really worked for us, putting this structure together or having these meetings in this format, whatever it might be. But identifying those things helps, especially as a team, as you move on, to know what to continue doing. Or if I was the project manager, the leader of the team, this is good feedback for the leader to know, things that he or she did that was done successfully, to know if he or she should continue doing that in the future, right? So that's really some of the main reasons why you would go through this activity. For the post-project review, you can see some of the key features are that all team members are included in this review, right? So everyone should be part of it. The project manager and the team members should participate in this review. There is an individual component as a kind of a preparation for the review, the meeting that you'll have as a team. And the idea is to kind of get us thinking about these kind of topics. What do I think worked well? What do I think we could have improved on? So as I come to the meeting, I've thought through some of this, and it will help me be able to participate more effectively during that time slot. Some reviews are led by a facilitator, so someone outside the group. That will not be the case for in our class. But that might be something that you might see in an organization. They might have someone else come in and actually facilitate this part of the process and follow kind of a formal agenda, that type of thing. But for our purposes, it will be something that you'll do kind of within the group with some guidance with the template and things that I'll provide for you. All right, so when actually conducting the PPR, it's important to kind of set this constructive tone. So later in the semester, we'll talk about supportive communication, and so this really aligns with supportive communication as we talk about things that we think we could have done differently. And I'm providing feedback to whether it's my team members, like individuals that I think could have done things differently, or just collectively as a whole. We want to think about how we're stating those things. It needs to be in a constructive way. It needs to come from a place that I really want us to be successful. I want us to grow and develop as a team. And so this is why I'm pointing these things out. If it comes from a sincere place, as the receiver of that constructive feedback, it's easier for me to take, knowing that you're not judging me, you're not attacking me, but you're truly trying to help develop me. And so using statements like I and not you type of statements will kind of help set that tone. So it doesn't feel like people are being attacked, which will hopefully lessen the defensiveness that can be created when having these kind of tougher conversations. All right. So again, you can see that second bullet point under that first that first main point is the goal is to understand what happened, not to blame people. Right. So we're really just trying to identify kind of solutions, kind of moving forward. So the individual preparation that you'll actually do this in this particular class for at least one of the cases. I will force all teams to complete the closing phase for the first case that we do. Cases 2 and 3, or project 2 and 3, it'll be kind of up to you as a team if you want to go through this exercise. I definitely will encourage it, but it's nothing that I will actually collect or monitor. But again, there is an individual portion to this to kind of just to get the basic idea is just to get us thinking in this way, right? Of things that I think we could have done differently, or things that I really like that we did as a team. So some example questions that you would potentially review individually in preparation for this particular meeting, you can see up here on the screen, things that you're proud of. What was something that really frustrated you during the process, things that you would do differently, right? And so again, you won't necessarily go through each of these questions one by one, individually, but it gets you, again, to start kind of forming these thoughts and this review ahead of time to make sure that our meeting is more effective. All right, so you can see that the purpose is that it does help you kind of crystallize those thoughts about your experience, and encourages you or ensures that you're prepared for the meeting and can contribute effectively. Right. The actual meeting, however, will follow kind of this type of an agenda, and you won't necessarily have to do all of these things, but this is the basic idea behind the actual meeting. The first thing on the agenda will be kind of this idea of taking stock. What happened, right? So looking at, did we kind of follow our scope statement? Here's the things that we said that we were going to do in terms of communication plan, our documentation plan, our mission. Did we accomplish those things, or there's things that maybe in the future we would want to change? And so we'll have conversations around some of these types of questions. We'll, as a team, start talking about what worked well, what did not work well, what would we do differently, all right? And we'll just brainstorm. As a team, we'll brainstorm several things in these different areas, hopefully. And then kind of come to an agreement on kind of what the top 3 or 5 things, kind of learning points were for us, that we want to kind of really document and move forward with. And so if you have a facilitator, again, we won't have that opportunity in this class, but if you would, the facilitator would kind of lead the team through that agenda, would make sure that the discussion stayed on point to the different questions that were that are part of the agenda. The facilitator would help document the discussion, maybe with a flip chart, or recording it on a computer and projecting it so the group can kind of see what those items are that they kind of listed out. And then the facilitator would help kind of review that list and talk with the group to get to the top 3 or top 5 kind of lessons learned. All right, and those are the things that would then be carried into the actual report. All right, so the meeting and all this brainstorming, not everything's going to make it to the final report, just kind of those top 3 to 5 items. All right, so again, there's a template that you'll be able to use for this this meeting and for this report, but the general portions or the general parts of the report contain a place for you to put your scope statement. All right, so kind of document it within the report itself. There will be kind of a place to talk about general performance and goals that were hopefully accomplished, and then a portion to look at kind of the lessons learned. And so it just kind of documented really nicely in a final report. Right. And that really concludes the closing portion. So once you're done with that final report, you would archive that with the other documents that were identified at the beginning of the lecture, any status reports, meeting agenda, meeting minutes, those types of things. Again, and saved somewhere and labeled correctly, so there's easy access for anyone or for potentially this particular team to go back and look at in the future if another project similar to this comes along. Right, so we're not being redundant. We can really keep improving along the way. All right, so short and simple, but essentially the last step of the framework. All right, thank you.